How I got out of fear and pressure to build my own life. My name is Arthur. I'm 25 years old, and today I can say I've finally found peace in my choices. But a few years ago, my life was a constant whirlwind. I was in my 6th year of engineering and felt trapped in a routine that wasn't my own. I woke up before dawn, braved crowded buses, rushed to classes and labs, trying to be the model student my parents always expected. But inside, I felt empty. Every calculation, every project felt more like a burden than a learning experience. Pressure came from all sides, from the university, from my family, and most of all, from myself. I wasn't living, I was surviving, playing a role that suffocated me every day. The fear of disappointing my parents kept me going, even when everything inside me screamed for me to stop. Mornings were particularly hard. Looking out the bus window and watching the city awaken gave me a sense of helplessness. My classmates seemed determined, discussing internships, competitions, and future plans, while I felt lost, as if I were just taking up space. When I got home, I had to smile at the dinner table, answering trivial questions with "everything's fine," while my chest tightened. At night, I would isolate myself in my room, staring at the ceiling, trying to control the anxiety that silently consumed me. I saw myself as broken, and I didn't know how to reconcile my desire for freedom with the weight of the expectations surrounding me. The breaking point came on a Wednesday afternoon during a project presentation. I hadn't slept well, and anxiety was building inside me. As I walked to the front of the room, I felt my hands grow cold and my voice fade. The words wouldn't come. Sweat poured down my face, and my heart felt like it was bursting. I finished speaking listlessly and ran to the bathroom. I locked the door and cried for a long time, not out of shame, but out of relief at finally admitting to myself that I couldn't keep pretending. There I realized that my biggest problem wasn't engineering, it was living someone else's life. In the days that followed, the thought of dropping out of school became impossible to ignore. I knew it would be painful for my parents, but there was no other way. I spent nights planning how to tell them, rehearsing responses, imagining reactions. Finally, I sat down with them and said, "I want to drop out of school." The silence that followed was crushing. My mother cried softly. My father simply walked away. For the first time, I felt like I was being honest with myself, even if it meant disappointing those I loved most. The following weeks were silent and introspective. My father barely spoke to me. My mother tried to soothe the sadness with gentle gestures. I isolated myself, questioning my decisions, but something inside me was beginning to change. I returned to old hobbies, disassembling devices, creating gadgets, and understanding how things worked. Small projects that had previously been just fun began to fulfill me in a way that college never could. With each discovery, I felt the spark of purpose rekindle. Finally, I realized I could rebuild my life on my own terms, even without a diploma or immediate approval. Getting back to tinkering with small projects was liberating. I spent entire afternoons disassembling old devices, testing circuits, and finding improvised solutions to simple problems. The curiosity I thought I'd lost resurfaced with a vengeance, reminding me of who I truly was. Each piece fitting correctly, each functional prototype, gave me a sense of achievement I'd never felt in college. Soon, I began sharing some of these projects online. The first sale was minimal, but the emotional impact was enormous. Someone recognized my effort and valued what I created. For the first time, I felt my actions had meaning of their own. Even with this small flame lit, the doubts didn't disappear. Was this just an escape I had thrown away years of study and family expectations? With every disapproving look, especially from my father, I felt the weight of guilt. But all it took was immersing myself in a project to reconnect with something deeper, the feeling of making something my own, something real, Social media, once a cruel reminder of what I'd left behind, now became a source of learning, inspiration, and even connection with people who shared the same passion. It was then that I created a profile on a freelance platform. Without formal experience or a robust portfolio, I offered my design, automation, and prototype assembly services. The first few days were uneventful, but persistent. I kept posting and perfecting my work. A week later, I received my first order, a small automation system for a local store. I worked for days, studying, making mistakes, and redoing until I delivered. When I received payment and the client's thanks, I felt a quiet, genuine satisfaction unlike any academic recognition. I was building something tangible with my own hands. Life, however, soon tested me. A major client, responsible for a large portion of my income, disappeared without paying. It was a blow that left me in shock. Bills piled up, a computer malfunctioned, and, to make matters worse, a message from my mother suggesting, "Son, there's still time to go back to college." It hit me like a punch in the gut. I seriously considered dropping out and resuming my studies, but something inside me stopped me. I had come too far to give in to fear again. I decided to resist. I sold my bike to fix my computer, sought help from friends to promote my services, and intensified my postings on forums and tech groups. Almost by chance, an engineer from a startup noticed my work and invited me to a conversation. My hands were sweating and my heart was pounding, but I accepted the challenge to develop a prototype for an internal project. I spent nights studying and testing, making mistakes, and starting over. When I handed it in, he replied, "You're ready for something bigger." At that moment, I felt for the first time in years that someone believed in me for what I was capable of, not for my degree. From that project onward, my life began to change rapidly. What seemed like a one-off job turned into a series of opportunities. The startup was impressed by my dedication and invited me to take on new, increasingly complex challenges. Working with larger companies was daunting, but also exciting. For the first time, I felt like my career was being built on my own merit, not on a title or the approval of others. With each completed project, my confidence grew, and with it, a sense of belonging to something I truly wanted. Despite growing up, my relationship with my parents remained fragile. My father rarely called me, and when he did, the conversation revolved around going back to college. This hurt me more than I cared to admit. Some nights, I considered lying, saying I'd gone back to college just to ease the tension. But I knew that would betray the only truth that kept me going, my choice, my authenticity. The silence between us was heavy, but I began to realize that I didn't need his approval to feel complete. My validation came from my own efforts. It was then that I had the idea to create something entirely my own. Inspired by the difficulty I faced finding opportunities, I wanted to develop a platform that connected small freelance technicians and engineers with companies in need of quick and affordable solutions. At first, it seemed impossible. I had no team, resources, or management experience, but I had the will, and that became my fuel. I spent days designing, programming, studying marketing, and validating ideas. Each sleepless night was one step closer to turning an idea into a tangible reality. The following months were intense. I learned to program, design interfaces, integrate systems, and serve clients on my own. I made many mistakes. I lost money, hired people who weren't a good fit for the project, and had to redo important parts. But for the first time, each failure was a learning experience, not a reason to give up. When I launched the first version of the app, I stared at the screen for hours. It wasn't perfect, but it captured my essence, my journey, and my persistence. For the first time, I felt genuine pride in something that was entirely mine. The app began to gain visibility. Professionals signed up, companies showed interest, and small victories began to emerge. It was heartwarming when my father called me, not to ask about college, but to congratulate me. The words were few, but they were full of recognition, something I'd been seeking for years. Each user message, each new sign-up reinforced that my efforts were paying off. For the first time, I understood that success isn't about money or titles, but about impact, authenticity, and the ability to transform passion into reality. As the platform grew, I realized the challenge went far beyond programming and design. I needed to learn about management, finance, contracts, customer service, and marketing, all at once. Every mistake became a lesson. I hired people who weren't a good fit for the project. I made the wrong investments, I lost money, but unlike Arthur in the past, I didn't let myself be paralyzed by the fear of failure. Every stumble became a learning experience, and every success strengthened my confidence. For the first time, I understood that success isn't linear, but built step by step, with persistence and patience. Even with professional achievements, insecurity still plagued me. Sometimes I'd look at everything I'd accomplished and wonder if I deserved to be there. The old imposter syndrome tried to convince me I was just lucky, not competent. At those times, I'd remember the sleepless nights, the rejected projects, the silent tears in college. It reminded me that every victory, no matter how small, was the result of my genuine effort. So I'd take a deep breath and move on, learning to appreciate the difficult days as much as the triumphs. 2 years after launching the platform, I received an unexpected offer. A large technology company wanted to acquire my project. At first, I thought it was a mistake, but after analyzing it, I realized it was real. The process was intense, full of meetings, negotiations, and complex decisions. I, who 3 years earlier had cried locked in the college bathroom, was now negotiating values I never imagined I could achieve. Each decision reminded me of where I came from, the fear, the doubt, and the feeling of inadequacy. But above all, I remembered that my persistence had brought me this far. When I finally signed the contract, my hands trembled, not because of the money, but because of the significance of that achievement. Every sleepless night, every tear, and every moment of insecurity were reflected there, on that piece of paper. For the first time, I felt complete peace. There was no anger or resentment, only gratitude. I understood that every failure prepared me for that moment, and that success is not a reward, but a consequence of persisting, even when no one else believes in it. I closed my eyes and silently thanked myself for not giving up on myself. After the sale, my life changed internally more than externally. I no longer felt the need to prove anything to anyone. I began sharing my story in videos and speaking engagements, demonstrating that the journey matters more than the destination. The response was surprising. People across the country identified with me, were inspired, and found the courage to follow their own paths. I discovered that my purpose went beyond technology. It was to help people recognize their worth, regardless of others' expectations. Finally, I understood that being true to yourself is the greatest success anyone can achieve. Today, when I look back, I see the boy lost between fear and the desire to please. That Arthur believed he needed to follow the path others laid out for him, failing to realize that the true path is made by one's own steps. If I could speak to him, I would tell him not to blame himself so much, to trust his own voice more, and to believe that making mistakes doesn't make him weak, just human. I would also tell him that dreaming isn't a waste of time, and that authenticity is the most precious thing anyone can have. Because, in the end, being true to yourself is what truly matters. I still have difficult days. Sometimes I wake up with a heavy heart, feeling the weight of responsibilities and the decisions I need to make. Other times, anxiety tries to remind me that everything can fall apart. But I've learned to deal with it. I know that fear is natural, and that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward even when trembling. Today, I see failures as opportunities for learning and growth. I've understood that happiness isn't in never failing, but in finding purpose even in difficult times. The experience made me more empathetic. Today, I understand that everyone carries silent battles. That colleague who seems confident may be crumbling inside. The person who appears strong may just be trying to survive. So I began to consciously practice kindness, listening, supporting, being present. When I receive messages saying, "Arthur, your story helped me," I feel gratitude and humility. Because deep down, I know that the person who was most saved by this story was myself. Sharing my journey has become a daily form of healing and transformation. Sometimes I return to the university just to walk the halls. The same place that once suffocated me now brings me peace. I pass by the room where I presented that project and smile, remembering the tears, the doubts, and the critical looks. I realize how necessary each fall was. Without those experiences, I wouldn't have learned to get back up, nor heard my own voice. Life, I've learned, prepares us for what comes next in unexpected ways. It tests, challenges, and strengthens us, teaching us to rebuild ourselves each time we fall. Today, I don't know what the future holds, and for the first time, that doesn't scare me. I continue creating, learning, and making mistakes with a light heart. Everything I've experienced has brought me to a place of peace, purpose, and gratitude. And if there's one thing I want people to take away from my story, it's this: no one is born ready. It's in the failures, the attempts, and the nights of uncertainty that we find ourselves. My name is Arthur, and this is the story of how I learned that the greatest success in life is allowing yourself to be who you truly are, even when the whole world tries to mold you.